Emily Foster had always stood out at Westbridge University, not just for her bright smile and sharp mind, but also for her seemingly perfect relationship with Mark, her boyfriend of 2 years. They often laughed together on the campus lawns, studied in the library's quiet corners, or shared coffee in the bustling university cafe. To everyone around them, Emily and Mark were the ideal couple, a match made in heaven. That illusion shattered one cold October evening. Having finished her study group session early, Emily surprised Mark at his apartment. As she turned the key in the lock, her heart was light with anticipation. However, the scene that greeted her as she pushed the door open turned her excitement into horror. On the couch was Mark, with another girl, laughing and cozy under a shared blanket. Their laughter, once music to her ears, now felt like jagged ice piercing her heart. The room went deadly silent as Mark and the girl, Sarah from their economics class, looked up, their expressions shifting from amusement to shock. Emily stood frozen at the door, her eyes locked on Mark's guilty face. Without a word, she turned and fled, the echo of her slamming the door marking the end of her most cherished relationship. In the following days, Emily walked through her life like a ghost. Her once vibrant eyes dulled, her laughter silenced. Her heartbreak was profound, not just for the loss of the relationship, but for the betrayal. It ate at her, a constant gnawing reminder of her humiliation. The idea of revenge began as a mere whisper in her mind, a way to make Mark feel even a fraction of the pain she was suffering. As days turned into weeks, the whisper grew into a shout. Emily knew she could not let this go. She needed Mark to understand the depth of the hurt he had caused. Her plan took shape with a chilling clarity. She would kidnap Sarah. Preparation was meticulous. To avoid suspicion, Emily needed to act as the grieving girlfriend, slowly getting over her breakup. Meanwhile, she observed Sarah, learning her routines and habits. She noted the times Sarah was alone and vulnerable, particularly in the evenings when she left the library after her study sessions. Emily gathered the necessary items for the kidnapping: a nondescript white van, rope, duct tape, and a blindfold. Each item felt heavy in her hands, not just in weight, but in the gravity of what it represented. She was about to cross a line from which there could be no return. The chosen day was overcast and dreary, mirroring the tumult inside Emily. She parked the van a short distance from the library and waited. As the clock neared 7, Sarah appeared, her steps light and unsuspecting. Emily pulled her hoodie tighter around her face and stepped out. Her heart pounded in her chest as she approached Sarah from behind, quickly covering her mouth and dragging her toward the van. Sarah's muffled screams pierced the cool evening air, but Emily pressed on, driven by a dark resolve. Inside the van, Emily secured Sarah, who looked at her with wide, terrified eyes. "Why?" Sarah whispered through her tears. "This is because of Mark," Emily replied, her voice cold and distant. Emily drove to an abandoned warehouse she had scouted earlier. The reality of her actions began to settle in as she watched Sarah struggle against her bonds. What had she become? Was this the way to heal her broken heart? Hours passed in silence, the only sound being Sarah's soft sobbing. "I didn't know," Sarah finally said, her voice breaking. "He told me he was single. I had no idea about you." Emily felt the walls of her resolve begin to crumble. She had seen Sarah as the enemy, but was she not just another victim of Mark's lies? With trembling hands, Emily untied Sarah. Her apology was barely audible, choked by her remorse. Together, they drove back to the campus in silence, each lost in their troubled thoughts. Emily dropped Sarah off with a promise to make things right. Emily penned a letter in her dorm room to the university administration, detailing her actions and intention to turn herself in. She had realized that vengeance had led her down a path of self-destruction. She could not undo the wrong, but could begin to atone for it. When the police arrived at her door, Emily was ready. She faced the consequences of her actions with quiet dignity, pleading guilty to her charges. The court was lenient, considering her clean record and the circumstances of her emotional turmoil. They sentenced her to community service, speaking to young people about the dangers of letting grief turn into vengeance. Years later, Emily stood before an audience, sharing her story. Her journey from grief to redemption was a powerful testament to the dangers of unchecked emotions and the redemptive power of acceptance and forgiveness. She spoke of her mistakes, lessons, and a new path in life, which she walked with hope and a deeper understanding of herself and others. Emily's story, marked by darkness, was also a story of light, the light of second chances,